Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to week 15 of the Round the 412 Fantasy Football Show. I'm a familiar face, Drew Hannes, but I got my boy Merrick here this week because our good friend Joe is on a bye week. He had a last second work thing, so he had to dip out, and we were able to find Merrick. It's probably going to be a little bit of a different show, obviously, without Joe. He always has these fancy things to say, but I'm not that type of guy. But it's playoffs. We're feeling really good. I personally, 7 leagues, 5 playoff teams, fortunate enough to have a bye in all 5 of those leagues. So I'm feeling good. Merrick, how are you doing? Thanks again, obviously, for hopping on short notice. How are you doing in your leagues?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I think I'm in about 7 or 8 and have a bye in one, got hit by injury bugs and sold off the team halfway through the season, another, and then a couple seeded about 3 to 6. And the one I'm 6 in, I think I'm the second highest scorer, just had bad luck. But for the most part, in the playoffs, one bye, and then the rest of the teams are trash.
Yeah. For those that don't know, Merrick and I actually met through the Scott Fish Bowl, which a lot of great things happen with Scott Fish Bowl. Obviously, there's thousands of people that are playing. It's a cool thing, but no one really talks about like the friendships that you make when you go to these live drafts. If you never attended a Scott Fish Bowl live draft, obviously I would definitely encourage going. Merrick and I met at DC Live. Jeff Lambert and Joe Bond run that. They do an awesome job, and it's been really cool. Did you make the playoffs in Scott Fish Bowl? We didn't really talk about it.
Yeah, I made the playoffs in Scott Fish Bowl, and then Devon Achane was on a bye, and I got promptly knocked out. I think I started like 0-10, ended up making the playoffs, and then without him, I went out. I think I was bottom 50 in the first round.
So I just missed the cutoff by 12 points to get into the playoffs, and the team directly below me in total points was actually in my league, but he happened to get 13 wins and I only got 12. So he snuck right in front of me. And it's been tough because I've been putting over like 320 the last 3 weeks. I still set a lineup just for fun. Obviously can't do any ad drops or anything, but my team's been doing better the last 3 weeks than it has basically all season. So I'm a little bitter that I'm, not in the playoffs and cruising, but Joe, his team is phenomenal. He advanced again. I think he cleared by like 30, 35 points. I think he told me. And that was with CMC on bye last week. So the dude with CMC, Jonathan Taylor, he picked up Jacoby Brissett. Like he's cruising. So I actually think he's going to end up in the finals, but we'll see. Hopefully he can dodge another week. It's crazy. You get like one injury or something, and then your whole week can be lost because of how high those point scales are. But speaking of injuries, we could transition right into our normal routine, which is injury updates. I actually have a pretty long list. I'll kind of cruise through. Joe would typically be like, Drew, put on the lab coat, but we have another doctor here as well. So I'll allow you some opportunities to chime in as well. But a lot of them are pretty straightforward. I mean, T. Higgins suffered his second concussion in as many weeks. So of games because he missed the week prior, but concussion again, had those symptoms Sunday night and Monday morning. So he's in the protocol. Honestly, like I'm a little nervous about this one. I don't particularly think he's going to play again. Concussions that close together obviously are problematic, and it's a serious injury. Obviously non-linear injury. We hear that all the time. Different guys go through the protocol in different paces, but the fact that he's been, so close together, I don't anticipate him playing. You have any additional thoughts on T. Higgins?
No, I mean, the fact that he self-reported the symptoms too in such a short period of time. He practiced today, but it was limited. But, we know scientifically when you stack concussion on concussion, the risk is usually too high. And I think if this was 10 years ago, I think he probably would play. Nowadays, I think missing a week, coming back and getting another one, I think he'll probably sit this week, even though he practiced today.
Yeah, I think in the protocol, you're allowed to practice at a limited capacity earlier in the week, but they ramp that up as symptoms subside. But
tomorrow should be the big day.
Yeah, and Friday. Obviously, we say this all the time on the show, but just monitor, the injury reports throughout the week for guys like T. Higgins in the concussion protocol. CeeDee Lamb is in the same boat. He suffered a concussion on Thanksgiving, but he had a longer. Oh, actually, it wasn't Thanksgiving. It was the week after that.
They played 2 Thursdays in a row, but yeah, he has the 10 days.
Yeah, so he does have the additional time to recover. Obviously, again, you're going to monitor the practice report to see if he's going to be able to play. I do feel a little better about him since he had extra time to recover. But obviously, it's something you gotta monitor. I wouldn't just assume. I know Ryan Flournoy was a huge waiver ad from a lot of people. I think in a couple of dynasty leagues I'm in, he went for like $90 to $100 in fab, which I was actually kind of shocked people had that much fab left this time of year. But
yeah, no, I suspect CD is going to play this year with the extra, or this week with the extra time. I would be kind of surprised, but again, look at the practice tomorrow, look at the practice Friday, and see the injury designation.
For sure. Yeah, and we have our boy Hernley in the chat. Obviously, send your questions through. We'd love to start talking start sits for the playoffs. Obviously, you have to win or you're going home. So get your questions out there. We'll try to answer all of those, but we'll start stacking, questions after we handle injuries, just like we normally do on a week-to-week basis. But Jaden Daniels is another guy I have here on my list. Honestly, when he suffered his elbow injury a few weeks back, actually it's probably been over a month at this point, where he missed some time. He had a little bit of a scare last Sunday where he fell after throwing a pick. I personally didn't think it was that big of an issue, but they've already ruled him out for the week. It's one of those things where when you suffer like a dislocation like that in your elbow, obviously there's going to be wear and tear and some ligament damage that you could suffer, but like the stability that you feel after you suffer an injury of that capacity, it probably just doesn't feel right to him. It might not be like a significant issue, but like they're out of the playoffs. Like they're going to sit there with a top 5 to 10 pick in next year's draft. He doesn't have a lot to play for at this point, so don't throw them out there if like it doesn't make a difference to what their football team's going to offer. So they sat him down already. I wouldn't be shocked if you see him next week, but I also wouldn't be surprised if he sits as well. So if you have Jaden Daniels, obviously if you're in the playoffs yet, having Jaden Daniels, you have another option, maybe like a Drake May or something that's got you this far. So you shouldn't really be scrambling, I would say, because most teams that had Jaden Daniels to begin with probably didn't make the playoffs. So fortunately enough.
I think the optics of it too, right? The original injury happened in garbage time. Why was he in the game in the first place? Like, I think they're going to be super cautious. The season is done. You've seen what he can do. The offensive line at Washington is terrible. Terry McLaurin didn't start out great, and the offense just hasn't gelled very well at all. So similarly, he's out this week. I wouldn't be surprised if they continue to hold him out, but Dan Quinn had some questionable decisions lately anyway, but yeah.
Yeah, for sure. We wait for, questions in the chat, but Chad already put in about Devontae Adams. He didn't practice today, but I feel like Devontae Adams doesn't practice a lot.
Yeah.
So like, I'm not really concerned. He plays through a lot of injuries in his career. I expect him to be out there this week. Obviously, again, you monitor the reports, but I'm not really concerned. I just pulled it up now when I saw it, him being on the injury report. Sean McVay already said that's more of a precautionary thing, and we expect him to be out there. So,
yeah, I think when you get these veterans, right, the Wednesday practice, oftentimes you're sitting just for that veteran rest day, and then you'll see what he does on Thursday, but I don't think it's going to be an issue.
Yeah, same. And, I mean, Lamar hasn't practiced a Wednesday all year at this point, like with how banged up he's been. So, guys like Devontae Adams, I don't really worry unless they're going to rule him out earlier, but I think that he'll be playing.
Agree.
And then Zach Ertz tore his ACL. I actually started him last week in our dynasty league that we share. Felt pretty good about his matchup, and then he got hurt. That was a rough injury. It looked ugly. I feel for Zach Ertz. He's a good dude. It doesn't seem like – I don't want to say like he played his last football game. I don't think a lot of guys like to go out the way he would go out if in that situation. I think that he'll probably play again, the competitor that he is. But it is at his age, it's rough to see a torn ACL.
I think he's 35, tore an ACL. I think he tore an ACL 3 or 4 years ago too.
Yeah.
I don't think it was the same one, but Yeah, definitely not playing for the rest of this year, most of next year. And then, like you said, who knows what he'll choose to do, but coming back at 36, 37, everybody ages.
Yeah, Chad brought up Benson. I was looking at that too, but honestly, like I just don't feel good about starting any commander not named Terry McLaurin. And even Terry McLaurin, who knows week to week, the quarterback situation's so murky. Mariota could play really well one week, and then the next week you don't get the same type of performance. It's really going to be matchup based for me, and Ben Sinat's not going to be on my radar. Right? As much as I would like him to be, everybody was so excited in rookie drafts when he came out, but I just don't see it. Not this late.
Yeah. What I'm looking for from Ben Sinat this year is just, does he do anything with this opportunity? And that would be for redraft next year, or if you have him in a dynasty league. Like, if you're banking on him to win any games, I think you're thinking wrong. But it'd be good to see some improvement and actually to see him on the field.
For sure. Yeah, and just, I mean, it doesn't hurt to just have a speculative ab for dynasty because you never know. But in redraft leagues, I'm not playing him in a playoff matchup or a dynasty matchup. I would just stash him.
Yeah.
And then a couple more injuries here. Devon Achane suffered a rib injury. It sounds like he's going to be able to play on Monday night, but that's the concern, though. Like, if you don't have Jalen Wright, who balled out last week when Devon Achane came out, you're really on thin ice because they play on Monday Night Football against the Steelers. I personally think he's going to play, but if you go into Monday night in a playoff matchup with a guy that's questionable and you don't know if he's going to play, that's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah. So make sure you have a backup option for Devon Achane. But I do think you could feel good about him playing. If you're between him and another guy that plays Sunday, I think I personally would take the risk that he would be out there on Monday night. But if you have an option that they're a coin flip, go with the other option. But Devon Achane is the type of guy that he's not even doing it in the passing game, and he's still putting up 20-point games. Like, I think he has one catch over the past few weeks. He's just so dynamic, so fast. The Steelers defense obviously has holes that they've been giving up a lot on the run. Derek Harmon's expected to play this week, though, which obviously would be helpful. But I still think Devon Achane will get his. And if you go into Monday night with him, I think you're going to be okay. But just make sure you have that backup option just in case.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Devon Achane is somebody that if, he got you to where you are, you don't sit him or play somebody else earlier in case he's not playing. The rib injury, x-rays, MRI, all clean, probably a bruise. I mean, I suspect the most important thing is going to be pain tolerance. Those rib injuries hurt. They'll get him in a flat jacket, get him some rib protectors, might shoot it up before the game. Hopefully they don't puncture his lung like the Chargers did to Tyrod Taylor. I think it was Herbert's rookie season.
Yeah, Herbert came in, balled out, and then Taylor just lost that job again.
Yeah, so I would play Achane 100%.
Same. Cool. Yeah, so the last injury I got here is just going to transition us right into our headline. So Daniel Jones suffered the torn Achilles. It's the talk of the NFL right now that our boy Phillip Rivers is signed to the practice squad by the Indianapolis Colts. Dude has not played since 2020. Honestly, like when I first saw this, I thought it was a joke. I thought that someone just pulled up an article from The Onion that just got written, and there was just no way. But apparently, this dude has been trying to get back in the NFL for several years, from what the reports were. It's just that he was looking for the right opportunity, and it just never manifested itself. There's a lot to unpack here. Honestly, this is probably the most we're ever going to talk about a headline, I feel like, on this show, at least over the last 5 years. There's so much to discuss. Going into the playoffs, there's so many players on the Colts that were fantasy relevant on a lot of these teams that are going to be in the playoffs. I have a lot to say, but I'm going to let you take the lead first, just so I don't just completely, just dominate the show. But there's just so much here to unpack. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I think in that league that we share, I picked him up the second I heard about it, kind of as a joke. Like, I was like, yeah, I can drop Hunter Renfrow and I'll pick up Phillip Rivers. Now it's coming out that he might start this Sunday against, I think, Seattle this Sunday.
I don't think it's a might. I think he's starting because Riley Leonard also suffered a sprained PCL, I believe it was.
Yeah.
He's unlikely to play. And Tyler Warren's their only other quarterback, and Brett Rippon.
Brett Rippon was it. I mean, that's insane. The guy's 44, 45 years old. Brady did it, but that's Brady, and Brady was playing consecutively. I don't care who you are. there's all this talk about him, he knows Steichen's system. He coaches high school and he uses that system, and it's not going to be. I just find it hard to believe that, one, athletically, you're going to be 5 years out of the NFL. And then you add the fact of the speed and trying to process. It's one thing to coach it. It's another thing to have NFL linebackers and defensive linemen coming after you. Like, I think there's a better. I don't understand. It's kind of crazy. I'm interested though. I'm going to watch. I'll have that game on a small TV, but if he starts against that Seattle defense, I think there's a way better chance he doesn't finish the game than they get another win. I just don't see it.
Yeah, so honestly, you unpacked a lot of the things I wanted to say first and foremost. Like, he was coaching high school football using Shane Steichen's system. So, like, I don't think that the learning curve is going to be as bad as what a lot of people are throwing out there. It just sucks that he has to face one of a top two Texans defense. Obviously, I think you can give number one clearly, but the Seahawks are top 2 or 3 defense. For him to come out and have to face them right off the bat is pretty crazy and rough, but there's a lot here. So they're 5th in the league in points per game, 5th in the league in yards per game. We're going to see those numbers nosedive early on. And this is a win or go home situation. I'm very worried about Michael Pittman. I don't think you can start Michael Pittman. I have several leagues where Alec Pierce is one of my flex options I've been playing week over week. Fortunately enough, I do have bye weeks in all of my leagues. I got so lucky this year with this situation that I can see it play out for 1 week before I really dive into, trying to assess whether or not I'm going to play these guys. Josh Downs to me is not playable. I am very intrigued by Tyler Warren, though. I still think that Tyler Warren is a guy that I'm starting in a playoff matchup, because I don't think it's just the fact that Rivers has targeted the tight end a lot in his career. A lot. Obviously, he and Antonio Gates have the record for touchdown passes, like the combination in NFL history. I think they have like 89 touchdowns or something like that off the top of my head from when I was looking it up. I still think they're going to throw to Warren enough, but I also think that because of Warren's skill set and the way they've already utilized him, he's going to get some wildcat opportunities. I could still see him throwing it a few times a game. I think that Warren is still a sneaky top 5 option, and I think that a lot of people just want to completely write this offense off. I'm not writing Tyler Warren off. Pittman, Downs, Pierce, I'm very nervous about. Warren, I'm not. But then it's Jonathan Taylor. I'm worried about Jonathan Taylor. We saw last year with Anthony Richardson. Obviously, Richardson was a little more mobile, and he took away some of the red zone carries and goal line work from Taylor. I think obviously that's going to be up. I think he's going to be getting 20 to 25 carries a game. I think that they have to feed him as much as possible. Obviously, there's going to be stacked boxes. I don't know what to think about Jonathan Taylor. I think that obviously you need to start him. He's the one that got you here. Odds are, if you have him on your roster. I have him on two teams, but I'm very nervous that there's just not going to be anything there for him. And he's already been kind of declining over the last several weeks. Let me look at what he's had the last couple of weeks here. While that loads, this is an offense that's been scoring like 3 or 4 touchdowns a game. We might be down to 1, if that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Whether it's Phillip Rivers, Riley Leonard, I think Tyler Warren, I think they're going to be creative. I think he's going to get the ball at goal line. I think they're going to put him in the backfield. He'll catch some quick passes. Even if it's Riley Leonard, I know he practiced today, but I'm not. Tyler Warren's probably the only pass catcher that I would want any piece of. Like you said, Pierce, the value becomes kind of a Rashid Shaheed flyer. Like, is he going to catch a deep ball, which has been his MO, but this year he's kind of picked it up a little bit. Pittman, I wouldn't be interested in. Downs, also not interested in. Taylor, I mean, it's going to be hard. They're gonna stack the box regardless of who the quarterback is. I don't think anybody's going to trust Riley Leonard to throw the ball downfield accurately under pressure, especially against Seattle. I think this game, again, week 1 of the playoffs, hopefully you have a bye and you can see, but really the only person on that team I'd feel super comfortable starting is Warren, but if I had Taylor similarly, you have to start him. I have him in a league that I'm in the 6th seed that I snuck in, and I'm playing him and just going to hope for the best.
Yeah, we didn't even touch on the fact that, like, we kind of alluded to Seattle, but 3 out of their next 4 games are not good matchups. They do have the Niners next week, so if you can make it into your semis, or if that's your championship week, if maybe you do like 2-week playoff matchups or whatever you do. The Seahawks, obviously a terrible matchup all around. You might be able to get a little bit from them in the tight end. They give up 15 points per game to tight ends over the last 3 weeks, which isn't bad considering how bad that position is. They have the 49ers after that, which are giving up 22.3 over the last 3. The wide receivers are giving up 32.2. So, like, you might have something there. But then they're looking at Jags and then Texans. If you have a Week 18 playoff matchup and you have to go up against the Texans, I wouldn't want to start anyone against the Texans, let alone this offense with this situation. So it's going to be tough. Hopefully you can survive. The Jags they've been the best rush defense in the NFL, giving up the least amount of yards to running backs. So it's really just 1 week. So it's going to be tough. Obviously, if you're in the playoffs, you're going to have to start Taylor. Hopefully you don't have to start one of these pass catchers. Hopefully you're in the same situation that I am. It's like a little bit of a humble brag here, but it's just like I just feel so grateful that I do not have to deal with this situation for 1 week and I could see it. But I think that it is going to be Rivers this weekend. If not this week, definitely next week. Because what the hell was the point of him coming out of retirement if he wasn't going to play? Like, let's just be honest. Like, he's not going to do that if there wasn't a situation where he saw himself on the field. So
yeah, I mean, I assume there was some deal that they had where he was like, if I can catch up and like that, I'll be starting eventually. But I don't understand why he wants to do it. I don't understand why they want to do it. It doesn't make any sense to me. I guess I can get proven wrong and he takes them to the playoffs, but I think it's probably the craziest thing I've seen in a while in the NFL.
Oh, it's literally the craziest
thing I've imagined
in my lifetime as an NFL fan. Unless there's something real crazy from when I was like a kid that I can't remember. But like in recent history, I can't think of anything that's crazier than this. Like, he's plus 1,800 on DraftKings for comeback player of the year. And I am so tempted to sprinkle something on it because to me, if he steps in and he can just keep them in the playoff picture,
yeah,
that earns the win, in my opinion. I know that there's a lot of other guys out there that have had really good seasons. Like CMC obviously is probably on the radar for comeback player of the year after missing all of last season.
I stopped betting on comeback player of the year when somebody literally died and didn't end up getting it, and they gave it to Joe Flacco. So who knows?
I get it. There was a lot of people that were upset about that, but like he also played like maybe 10 snaps all season, I feel like.
Yeah.
Obviously it was more, but like he didn't do a lot on the field. But obviously, yeah, that was a crazy situation. Happy to see that he's still doing well though. Before we transition into Tinder, we have a lot of questions actually to run through. So I'm gonna start throwing some of these up there. A couple of them here, like Hurnley, finally in the playoffs. He gets facing Joe week 1. Honestly, Hurnley, this is probably the best week that you could face Joe in a fantasy playoff because he's been low-key just completely off the map here. Like obviously he does an amazing job with our show, and he was able to put all the stuff together for me, which hopefully this continues to go well because I've never had the opportunity to even work with the technical stuff on the side. Joe's just been driving all of it. But like I asked him if he had any thoughts about any of our Tinders or anything. He's like, I haven't even looked at a single thing. So maybe you'll get lucky facing Joe this week. Joe's probably watching this and getting ready to text me saying that you're going to go down. But yeah, good luck in the playoffs. Happy to see that you're going to be in there. Is this the week I pull the trigger on Watson over Egbuka? We'll get to that one. Hurnley. Oh, Devontae Panic. Playing Brissett and Stroud in my home league, and we have only 14 to make playoffs. So this is the last week of the regular season. Okay, so he still has one more. Just throwing it out there, Brissett got the Texans this week. Not sure I would want him in my lineup this week. And it's crazy because he's had 8 straight weeks where he was a top 12 finisher, but he's been good against any matchup, but most of the bad matchups, they were playing like crazy from behind, like
Yeah.
down 35 real fast, and he's just slinging it around and playoff. The defenses were obviously playing softer. I don't see that happening this week because the Texans don't have as a potent offense as some of these other teams, like when he plays the Rams and stuff. So like I'm out on Brissett for this week. I have him in a couple leagues. Obviously, I don't have to worry about playing this week, but I wouldn't be playing him if I did.
Yeah. If you're playing him, you're hoping, like Drew said, that they go down quick and they're playing soft, and he's just throwing to Michael Wilson and McBride all day and just getting those gimme points. But yeah, I wouldn't want to play him.
Yeah, shout out to Michael Wilson again for just balling out. If Marv doesn't play, he is a guaranteed start. Matchup, I don't even care about the matchup. I'm not going to play Brissett against the Texans, but I'll throw Michael Wilson into a flex spot no matter what. I don't think Marv's going to be back from his heel injury either because there's just not much for them to play for either. They're not going to rush him long either. If Kamara plays, I'm choosing between him, Dowdle, and Rodriguez. So, Hernley, I do not think that Kamara is going to play. I'll get to that later on as well. Rico Dowdle also missed today, so that's something to monitor as well. That I didn't have him on my list because I noticed that late when Sleeper gave me the notification, but he didn't practice either. So, you got to watch that. I think Chris Rodriguez is he might be a solid play this week. They got the Giants. It's a good matchup. I think I would probably go with Chris Rodriguez there. Obviously, you don't have to deal with the health issue with him, and then obviously the great matchup. But any thoughts you have on that one?
Nah, yeah. I mean, I'm Kamara. I mean, I don't think Kamara plays. I think they're going to go with Devin Neal. Dowdle, I'm intrigued. I'd probably go Dowdle, to be honest. Just the Washington backfield between JCM, Rodriguez, and who's the other? Jeremy McNichols.
Yeah.
I really don't want any part of that backfield. I know Chuba's come back in the past couple weeks, but I still think Dowdle is going to be your primary 1A there. I'd probably go Dowdle there.
Yeah, I mean, Panthers got they got the Saints this week, middling matchup, giving up 24 points per game running backs over the last few weeks. But to your point, they have been working Chuba Hubbard back into it. I want to look up what the snap differential was last week for those two. Bear with me. Fantasy Pros does such a good job of tracking this stuff. Shout out to them. Filter here.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Yeah, it was almost an even split. Chuba actually outsnapped them. They were on bye last week, but the week before that, Chuba Hubbard had 38 snaps and Rico was down to 27, which was a massive flip from the week before where Hubbard had 16 and Dowdle at 30. I mean, obviously, the Saints aren't a horrible matchup. I wouldn't be shocked if this is like a sneaky shootout game. With the way Tyler Shuck's been playing, he's actually been pretty solid. So if you get into a game like that, they might be throwing the ball more. I don't hate the Dowdle play.
Yeah, I mean that's
I'm between him and Rod.
I mean,
yeah, just monitor the reports.
I just don't know. I mean, you don't know what Panthers team you're going to get. Are you going to get the team that he's throwing for 450 yards and everybody's eating? You're going to get the team that tries to run the ball down your throat. Like you get the team that scores 0 points or this team that scores 40. It's.
Yeah,
but
sure.
Out of those options, I don't think Kamara plays. I think Dowdle would be who I'd go with there.
Yeah, if Dowdle plays, I could see it. Chad chimes in here on the Geno injury. Yeah, he's already been said to be unlikely to play. I didn't even bother to bring up Geno on the injury report because if you're starting Geno, you're not watching the show. There's no way you're up. So there's just no point with Geno. I'm a little bit worried if you're a Brock Bowers owner because I don't know where you're going to get out of Pickett. Yeah. Honestly, like they have. What do they have this week?
I think the answer to that question is I don't think Pickett's going to be
Eagles.
anybody's guy moving forward.
They got the Eagles this week.
You said Eagles?
The Eagles defense has been very good, especially their secondary. I'd be worried about Bowers. You got to play him. You have to play him, but I would expect less than normal. They've been giving up over the last 13.2 to tight ends. It's a middling matchup. Not horrible, but when you throw in the Kenny Pickett factor, I don't feel good about that one. But they honestly should just bench Geno, though. What's the point? I mean, they extended him before the season, though, didn't they?
Yeah, I think so. But I
wonder if they have a way out.
I think it's a contract they can get out of next year or maybe the year after with minimal dead.
Yeah, they're 66.5 guaranteed through 27. So he's probably their starter again next year. You just hope that maybe, Pete Carroll's not going to be around. Maybe a new regime comes in and kind of fixes them up, even though that relationship was there. You kind of would expect it if it was going to happen at all, it would happen with him. But who knows? Geno's been an absolute disaster.
Yeah.
Winner was a full participant, so the dream is dead.
I kind of want to see it. I hope he plays. And then I have a feeling I'll get 5 minutes into the game and be like, he shouldn't be playing.
I'm telling you, why the hell would he come out of retirement if he didn't plan on playing? So, I think he's going to play. It's just a matter of, can they get him ready for Seattle? That's the thing. He might not be ready this week, but there's no way he came out not to play. So we'll see. Yeah. You should just drop Pickett, though. What are we doing here? We know what that looks like.
Did he actually take Daniel Jones' number?
Yeah, that's crazy. Since he's on IR, he's actually eligible to wear the 17, which I thought was kind of wild. But in Rivers' final season, the combo Mo Alley, Cox, Jack Doyle, and Trey Burton had 750 yards and 8 TDs. I'm telling you, I think that Warren's still going to be viable.
Yeah. I'd also hesitate to compare a final season that was 5 years ago. It's, liking to throw to tight ends and being able to hit them in the face of an NFL defense is just, I don't know. It's the most fascinating thing, even though it probably in the scheme of fantasy really means nothing because I don't think anybody's going to feel comfortable starting them. I don't think it's.
Hernan asking if you should play Jalen Coker or Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones has a good matchup this week too, but isn't he? Oh, they have the Cowboys. Ooh.
Yeah. I play Aaron Jones.
Yeah, he's banged up though, so let me see the most recent.
When is Aaron Jones not banged up?
Yeah, that's facts. What do we got here?
Got him limited today.
Yeah, with a shoulder injury. Yeah, I like Aaron Jones. Honestly, we might have a repeat of JJ McCarthy, the real 9 back-to-back weeks in that matchup. Is Tyler Shuck giving you Nick Foles vibes of late? Feels like there's something real there. Honestly, I've actually been pretty impressed by Tyler Shuck. I don't know how much you've watched of Saints games, but the dude looks like he's in command of the offense. He's not afraid to, run and throw his body out there. Not like Jackson Dart level, but the dude seems like he has some life in him. We'll see.
Yeah. Haven't really watched much Saint games, but I can say in one of my leagues, I have Caleb going against the Browns. It's going to be 10 degrees and raining or 10 degrees and windy. And I was like, Tyler Shuck, I'm going to throw him out there. It's not one of my better teams. And I'm like, I really don't feel comfortable with Caleb this year or this week.
Let's talk about Brent Strange. He's got to replace him. He said, who do the Jags have this week? I feel like it just Jets. Yeah. The Jets have actually been pretty decent against the tight end, I believe, but you can run all over them, so it could be a big Travis Etienne game.
Yeah.
Picked up McCarthy in my home league, and should I take the chance on his matchup over Brissett against Houston? I'm trying to think about what Joe would say here, since I've already given my piece on Brissett over. I don't want to play Brissett against the Texans personally. I don't. We saw what they did to Mahomes last week. They've been so good against quarterbacks. I'm pretty sure. Let me pull up that chart again. I should just have it up on my screen at all times. They've only given up 10 fantasy points to quarterbacks over the last 3 weeks per game. They had KC, Indianapolis, and Buffalo. I don't know how you
starting either, but I think I'd go with McCarthy. They have Dallas, right?
Yeah, I think that I would start McCarthy. I'm so afraid to tell a dude to play JJ McCarthy in a playoff matchup, but like this is like several years ago, Joe was faced with like Jared Goff in a bad matchup and Davis Mills in a good matchup in a championship, and he went with Davis Mills, and he regrets it to this day. He brings it up all the time. And it feels like the same type of situation, but the Texans are like, they're a generational.
Yeah, I think that's more than a bad matchup, right? Like there's talk that it's a top 5 defense when you take in DVOA of like all time, right? So like, yeah, there's a difference between a bad matchup and,
I feel journeyman. McCarthy, obviously Chad's bringing it up here as well. He talked about him for his OnlyFantasy for the week. Last week, we did get to see JJ McCarthy do it last week. I think he had 4 touchdowns, right? Something crazy like that. I feel better about starting McCarthy over Brissett after seeing that, but honestly, like it's tough. If you start McCarthy and he pays off, you could talk a lot of crap to people in your league because people aren't gonna, believe what they're seeing. People are going to trash you before the game even starts, but I feel like it's actually the move. Especially with Marv out.
Yeah. I think Washington's pass defense is similarly not as good as Dallas's, so I think you're looking at something similar for JJ would be my guess.
Yeah. All right, so we were able to catch up a little bit on the comments here. So why don't we transition into fantasy football Tinder? For those that have not watched our show before, fantasy football Tinder. Basically, we take a player each week, a couple players each week, and we decide whether or not we swipe left on them, swipe right. Obviously, people that have been on Tinder before. We have our boy Zach here as an example. Will Zach ever see a good coffee flavor? I texted Zach this morning. Obviously, for those that don't watch Zach, he posts a video every single day. He has an advent calendar of different coffee flavors, and he's been going through it. My man has been struggling. This is some of the stuff that he's been having to drink on a daily basis. Spiced eggnog. Sounds terrible. Chocolate pistachio. Woof. Candy cane. Does not sound like candy should be in a coffee. I don't know about you. If you feel like the optimist type and you think that he's getting all the bad flavors out of the way, he's got a couple more weeks until Christmas. Obviously, the good flavors are going to start coming. You'll swipe right on our boy Zach because he's got life at the end of the tunnel. He's going to be able to get some good flavors. If you're like me, actually, though, and you think coffee tastes like mud and you have no interest in drinking any of those cups, you swipe left. Our first player that we're going to talk about this week, it's crazy that it's come to this, but it's still Egbuka Matata. These are Joe's headlines. He does a really good job. But if you haven't seen this before, obviously you're gonna be like, what is this? But is it still Egbuka Matata? I'm gonna let you start off. I'm just gonna go off and say, based on how Joe built it, that I'm swiping left on our boy Emeka Egbuka. But I'm gonna let you start off. How did you swipe?
Left. I think Mike Evans is coming back this week. I think you're going to get a good game from him. I know Jalen McMillan is finally going to come off IR. I don't know if he's going to play tomorrow. Godwin is back. I think that in combination with Baker, I think Baker's kind of been off for the past 5-6 weeks since he had that hot start, getting Bucky Irving back. And then you just add the fact that, if you look at Egbuka's splits, I think he's been around 200 to 280 yards a month, but he's definitely trending downward. And his touchdowns, I think since October, he scored like 2 touchdowns. That's not going to get better with more people coming back, especially Godwin and Evans back, I think. And then you add the fact that you have that rookie wall coming. We're in week 15 now. This is the most football he's ever played. For redraft, I'm out for the rest of the year, but for Dynasty, I'd definitely be trying to use what I suspect are going to be some down weeks to end the season to try and buy.
Yeah, I'm with you. Obviously, I've already said that I swipe left. You hit on a couple things I wanted to, look at. We haven't seen the Buccaneers yet this year with Mike Evans, Emeka Egbuka, and Chris Godwin on the field, all 3 of them at once. The fantasy industry discussed it a lot during the preseason. We thought that it was going to take an injury for Emeka Egbuka to, really, plant himself as a fantasy football option for us. And we were able to get that with Chris Godwin missing some time, and then Mike Evans ended up breaking his collarbone. But with those 2 coming back, the only thing that kind of kept Emeka Egbuka up over the last several weeks was his target share. The dude had more than, 8 targets. I catch up on my notes here. I'm not used to this when Joe's usually the one that's kind of going through all this, and I have a chance to find my notes. But he's had greater than 8 targets in 7 straight games. Yeah. But he has a less than 50% catch rate in 2 of those last 4, and 50% was one of them. So he's not catching the ball at a high rate. A lot of targets, not a lot of completions, and it's mainly because Baker's been bad. We got to touch on the fact that Baker has not been playing well himself. The dude's banged up. He hasn't thrown for more than 200 yards since week 10. He hasn't thrown for multiple touchdowns since that same game against the New England Patriots. Yeah. Things aren't looking good. I think what the Buccaneers are going to do over the next 4 weeks is just really be Bucky Irving centric, which is really the main reason why I'm swiping left. I think it's just going to be a lot of Bucky. The last 4 games, they're positive matchups for the running back.
Yeah.
39.6. Actually, I have wide receivers in my notes here.
I think your hope for Egbuka is with Evans coming back, he's going to go back to his more natural role, kind of get him in motion, move him around, and maybe that'll open him up. I do worry with Godwin having kind of a similar slot motion role. And if McMillan ever comes back and then you add Baker struggles, Bucky coming back and trying to feed him, I think you could end up with the problem that we thought was going to happen early in the season, which there's one ball to go around, right? Who's going to end up getting it?
For sure. Yeah. Like I said, I think it's going to be mostly Bucky Irving the next 4 weeks because they have 4 positive matchups for running back. I think that Atlanta could be a tough matchup for the running back, but I feel like it's really just been who they've been playing as of late to make it look better. They've been getting after the passer, but they had – let me find him here on Joe's chart. Seattle, the Jets, and the Saints over the last 3 weeks. I don't know. I think for the Bucs to get back on track, they got to try to take the ball out of Baker's hands a little bit, get the ball back into Bucky's. I don't think there's going to be enough ball around. If he's not catching a ball at the higher rate, and most of the targets going to be going to Mike Evans now, they have to catch up on his 1,000-yard season. I think he needs 680 yards to get 1,000 yards. And Joe talks about it every single time we bring up Mike Evans, but it's not really a joke. I can absolutely see them just peppering him and just trying to get him the ball and get him as close as possible to that number. I don't think he's going to hit it, but I just feel like he's going to be the guy. Godwin's going to get his. I don't see Egbuka getting more than 5-6 targets a game, and reducing those 2 targets with how they've been, Baker and him have been looking on the field. They're not on the same page. It seems like Egbuka was getting the ball forced to him. Egbuka is a very good number 2, but I think the reason why some people didn't have him higher on their boards heading into the draft is that he wasn't a clear-cut number one, and I just think he's a very good number two, not really a one. And we were starting to see that more when Mike Evans went down, that he wasn't the type of guy that was going to be able to line up against some of these better corners. But
yeah,
it's tough. But I'm out on Emeka Egbuka. You're out on Emeka Egbuka. Hopefully we're wrong. I have him on a couple teams that are in the playoffs, but we'll see. Next guy we have here, it's a fun one actually. Has a Shedeur of an opportunity open. Shedeur Sanders last week against the Tennessee Titans went 23 for 42 with 364 yards, 3 TDs, 1 interception, 3 rushes surprisingly for 29 and a TD. QB2 on the week at 33.46 fantasy points. I swiping left on Shedeur Sanders. What do you say?
Also going to swipe left. You look at who they have this upcoming week. I think we already talked about. I talked about Chicago's weather a little bit. It's going to be frigid. It's going to be windy. Out at Soldier Field, you got the Chicago D line playing really well. Montez Sweat is on fire. I want to see him get over his bad habits of holding onto the ball too long, of kind of dropping back in the pocket. I think they're going to give him every opportunity because they absolutely have to. So this is his time. He needs to play really well in the next 4 games. But at the end of the day, it's the Browns. I just can't. I wouldn't want to have any, need to play him. I want to see what he does, but I'm out on, if I'm playing him, something's gone wrong.
Yeah, I'm with you. And for me, it wasn't just he's a rookie. The matchups aren't great. As you said, they got the Bears this week at Soldier Field. They've only been giving up 14.4 points over the last 3 weeks of quarterbacks. They have the Bills after that at 12.9. You can run the ball against the Bills, but Shedeur is not going to have a successful game against them. And then they have the Steelers in the championship week. The Steelers obviously have been giving a lot up on the pass. They're the 5th best matchup, but at that point in the season, the Steelers are going to be really after it, battling for the AFC North with the Ravens. I would have liked, if you were to ever start Shedeur, I would have liked that Week 18 matchup to have been mixed into either Week 16 or 17 during the playoffs because they have the Bengals. I would consider playing him against the Bengals just because of how bad their defense is, but I'm not starting against the Bears, Bills, and I don't think I'm going to start him against the Steelers, even with them at home. The main thing
with the Bills is their pass rush isn't. I mean, they're pretty injured on that defensive line. I think from a pass rush standpoint, and then their secondary is kind of weak.
Joey Bosa's been good getting after the quarterback. They haven't been. I feel like the Bills. I said it earlier in the year. I don't think the Bills are really a good team. I think that Josh Allen just is a superhero and he just carries them. But they've been stout against the pass for whatever reason. 12.9 fantasy points of quarterbacks per game is very subpar. It's not something that you're going to want to start in a playoff matchup. But the big thing for me, he just doesn't throw the ball enough either. They're a run-first team. He's only averaging 23 attempts per game. If you take out last week, which it makes no sense to me how they ended up with such negative game script against the Titans, but that's what happened. That's the reason why Shedeur went off. Great matchup, and somehow they were playing from behind. So it was just a perfect storm for Shedeur to get him that QB2. Yeah. I don't know. He kind of has some appeal for next year. I'm not going to lie. I'm not the biggest Shedeur guy, but the dude is obviously confident in himself. You never know. Maybe if he has a full offseason, he comes in next year and works on some things. But it's still the Browns. Shedeur Sanders, obviously, I don't know, cocky.
Yeah, that doesn't bother me. I mean, at the end of the day, I think this is a tryout for next year, right? I think they have their 2 first-round picks. Yeah, he says he's their guy. I mean, you don't need him to light it up, but you want to see growth with every game. You want to see him making his reads. You want to see him progressing like a rookie should. They want him to start. I mean, they've already labeled him the starter. I think Dylan Gabriel, I don't think he's going to be the answer. I don't think he has the tools. I think Shedeur, not the strongest arm, but definitely from like a tool standpoint, I think has a better chance. They had to give Dylan Gabriel the shot first. They drafted him first. For all accounts, Shedeur wasn't ready, but now with weeks of practice, I mean, he's trying to prove that they don't need to use one of these picks next year for a quarterback. Not that it matters, because they'll mess it up even if it doesn't matter who they draft.
Shedeur's a very good DFS play for the rest of the season. Because the Bears and the Bills, they're probably going to play from behind, so maybe he will throw a little bit more. But he's just not the type of guy that you can play in a playoff matchup, honestly. But play him in DFS, you never know, you make a little bit of money. I think J.J. McCarthy ideally is in the same situation. Like, I know we were talking to Hurnley about him versus Brissett. Ideally, you have a better option than those two, Hurnley. If you have to pick one, though, I feel like it is probably JJ, which is crazy to think about. But Shedeur's a great DFS play for the remainder of the season. That's really the only route that I would play him at. We have a few comments here now. Hurley's talking about he's not trading him in our home league. He's talking about Emeka Egbuka because I've sent him several trade offers, and he's just it's not happening. He's among the highest rated uncatchable passes to go along with his drop issues. It's again with Egbuka, like him and Baker just have not been on the same page.
And I think you hit on it. I think you hit on it with him forcing the ball. I mean, there's Godwin came back 2 weeks ago, has been in and out. There's just no one else to catch the ball. So I think Baker's one injured and forcing it to him.
Yeah. Chad chimed in on the Bills secondary with Trey White looking awful, but he had a few miraculous plays. What a fall from grace Trey White was when he got hurt. Like, that dude was really good for a while there, and then those injuries just really caught up with him.
Yeah.
All right, we can transition into OnlyFantasy. Again, for those that don't know, we pick it's basically our start of our week, the guy that we want to subscribe to that we feel really good about as a start this week. Typically, we try to avoid like some of the obvious must starts and pick some guys that if you're in a tight situation, you need a borderline flex guy. You know, pick one of those guys. Last week wasn't so good for Joe and I. I went with Isaac Tesla, was 2 for 20 and a touchdown and 3 targets. I really thought that Amon-Ra St. Brown was going to miss last week. I'll be honest with you. I was shocked when they said that he was playing. It just completely killed that. But there was a couple other passes that Tesla had that right before the half, I think there was like 7 seconds left. They threw a bomb to Tesla. He was wide open and Goff missed him. Like, it would have been like a 55-yard touchdown. My week is looking completely different. Joe went with Gunnar Helm. He only was 1 for 8 with 2 targets, tight end 50, which is rough. Yeah, you win some, you lose some. Obviously, this is the playoffs, so we definitely want to go ahead and hit on these next ones because we feel real bad if we give you some, options here and then they don't end up panning out. But Joe has a setup for me to go first, and I'm going with Devin Neal. So we kind of alluded earlier, there was some comments in the chat. We talked about Devin Neal as being a potential option. I feel really good about Devin Neal. The last few weeks, I feel like Joe and I have been dogging on him a little bit. But the opportunity has been there, and he's been pretty solid. In week 13, he had 82% of the snaps, 17 touches for 69 yards. He only had 9.9 fantasy points, but it was still, a pretty solid day. It's really about the snap share for me that really stuck out. Week 14, he was a little better with his production. Less snaps, 71%, but he had 20 touches, 84 yards, and a touchdown for 15.4. Again, I don't think that Alvin Kamara is going to play. I don't think that Evan Hall is, taking anything away from what Devin Neal is, doing. Tyler Shuck has been good enough that I don't think that he's facing a lot of stacked boxes, which is a plus. But really, it comes down to the matchup for me. He has the Panthers this week at home. The Panthers have given up 33.3 fantasy points to running backs over the last 3. They've given up at least 85 yards and a TD in all 3 of those games, and they've given up more than 125 total yards and a TD in 2 of the 3. So I feel really good about Devin Neal as a flex option. If you're running into any situations where maybe a guy that you've been relying on has been kind of fading as of late, I don't want to say Jonathan Taylor is one of those guys. You're starting Jonathan Taylor, but, Breece Hall, it's been a little rough as of late. I feel like I feel good about him over Breece Hall. They have the Jags, which has been the worst matchup for running backs. Guys like that. I feel really good about Devin Neal. So if you're looking at a spot here where you need to find someone and you have Devin Neal available, he's the kind of that I would look at. What are your thoughts on your guy?
All right. So I have Woody Marks going up against Arizona. And I've kind of, obviously, you play your stars, right? Woody Marks, he was going in 3rd and 4th rounds of rookie drafts. I don't know where he was drafted in the NFL, actually, but somebody I picked up in redraft leagues on waivers pretty early. But you look at Arizona, last 3 games, giving up 160 yards per game. I know that's last week they got shredded for about 250 rushing yards. And then you look at Woody Marks, right? Like dating back, I think, to week 10, the lowest percentage of snaps you got was 54 with multiple above 80%. So, he started to take over from Nick Chubb. He's going to get on the field. He's going to get the carries. He's going to get the pass catching. Hopefully Nick Chubb doesn't steal some goal line touches, but when I look at this, I'm thinking of who do I want to play that isn't in everybody's lineup, but somebody that I would want.
Cool. Yeah, Woody Marks has been really good. I think Nick Chubb got banged up last week as well. I feel like, let me look up and see what he's dealing with injury-wise. But yeah, he had a rib injury, so yeah, another guy that it'll be pain tolerance. I feel like Chubb will be out there, but obviously I feel like you can feel safe that Woody Marks is going to be, on the field much more often.
I think Arizona bottom 3rd rush defense. Like you said, season's kind of done. What are you playing for besides pride? Houston's, the offense took a little bit, but here we go.
Yeah. So Chad's always been good about this. He'll give us a player that he's subscribing to each week. Obviously, I mentioned earlier he had J.J. McCarthy. So he's going with A.J. Barner against the Colts. A.J. Barner against the Colts. What are we looking at here with the Colts? Give it a 12 over the last 3. It's pretty solid. Yeah, as you mentioned, Elijah Arroyo's down, for this week. So giving A.J. Barner more snaps and higher route percentage, if you can get in the end zone, so that's a good play for sure.
Yeah.
All right, man. That's all we got here, so we can tell people where they can find us. Do you want to talk about your social media presence? Because you kind of backed away from the X game as of late. You still on anything? You still using like Blue Sky or anything?
I think I'm on Blue Sky. To be honest with you, I've kind of backed away from everything within the past year or so. I got to get back on, and I think it was good for me to take a break. Had a lot of stuff going on with work and just different things, and I was like, I just don't have the time for it anymore. My X still exists. It's mkozak25, but I haven't been on it in a while. But I think in the new year, my goal is to try and get back on social media a little bit more.
Cool. Yeah. So everyone, Chad, I'm gonna put you on blast a little bit. You've been tagging the main around the 412 page, which is no problem at all. Obviously, we still get it, but if you want to start using the AT 412 Fantasy Football Show X account, we're trying to get that up and running a little bit more. I feel like the problem with that account is really me because I don't post enough on it. It's not fair to Joe that he's just constantly posting on it. But that's our X account. Obviously, you can hit us up with around the 412 and view us on Twitch and on YouTube. But we really got to start posting more on there. And when I say we, I mean me, not Joe. But do you have any closing thoughts here before we get out of here?
No. Good luck to everybody in the playoffs. This is that time of year where I think I always say, making the playoffs that's the testament of like a good owner to reliably make playoffs. What happens once you get there is all luck. Who gets hurt? Are the Colts going to start Phillip Rivers? Anything can happen. Like as long as you consistently get there, you're doing everything right. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some, but that's why we play, right? Yeah, for sure. Last year I was in 17 leagues last year. I cut back significantly. Only down to 7. I'm in the playoffs in 5, like I mentioned. But like last year when 17, I went to playoffs in all 17, went to 1 championship. I had the week from hell where I just lost in 16 leagues right before the championship. It was brutal.
I'm hoping I don't have to go through that again. But I do want to bring up one last thing. The Rock Around the 412 initiative. We are still accepting donations until Saturday. I know Zach put it out on his social media that he did the Salvation Army Angel Tree drop off a couple days ago. Over 70 children were given, a great Christmas. Zach and Tyler do an awesome job with that initiative, working through the Salvation Army underneath Dalton Keene, who tragically passed at a Steeler game a few years ago. Zach does an awesome job. There's still a couple more days that you can, make donations, and we can try to get, some more tags out there for kids through the Salvation Army. But yeah, that's it for us in week 15. I'm hoping that our chat is still booming next week for week 16, and we have a lot of people in this, because that means that you advance in your playoffs. That's what we want to see. I want to wish everybody a best of luck in week 15. See y'all next week.